Hello, I'd like to introduce the DocLogix Contracts Management Business Solution. This is a solution for the DocLogix platform, which is built on top of the DocLogix Document Management and Workflow solution. To introduce the first part, I'll present the typical issues and also the benefits that DocLogix brings with its functionality. In the second part, which is split into two parts, first, managing contract preparation and approval process, and secondly, managing signed contracts. Also, in the second part, I'll be presenting the typical phases of each of these life cycles in the moment of contract document creation approval, as well as managing signed contracts. For each of these phases, I'll be presenting the typical issues that arise and also the functionalities that benefit DocLogix's end users. The third part is dedicated to introducing the target audience to contract management. Let's start from DocLogix's introduction. DocLogix is both the company and the product. In 2015, it was recognized as the best information and document management solution in the whole of Europe. DocLogix also won an Excellence Award from IT Europa in this category. DocLogix has proven itself with 13 years of experience in the information management market, with over 300 customers and more than 35,000 users to boast. DocLogix operates in 12 different countries, including the United States of America and Canada. Our customer base includes a wide range of industries, including those in the finance and banking, telecoms, and manufacturing companies. Let's start from reviewing the typical contract management issues. Managing contracts in a traditional way with paper documents can lead to contracts disappearing and getting lost. Another typical issue is missed deadlines. This means that we put our effort for renewing or prolonging the contract too late. When we've got large quantities of contracts in a pile, it's quite inefficient to physically search through the whole stack, and it takes longer to find the right contract. Regarding all the actions related to the contract as a negotiation process with its protocols, also, it's harder to keep track of who has made the changes and what kind of changes have been made. So, in a traditional paper contract system, you would have to store all the draft versions related. Usually they're kept somewhere in the inboxes of the people directly related. However, it does not consist of the kind of systematic approach of versioning and sharing the information in an appropriate way. On the other hand, when it comes to contract preparation, the approval process is difficult to lead and control, and trace the process and flow. So that's why many customers decide to switch to electronic instead, with all of its benefits. Another point is that we've got different types of actions, such as audit actions and of course the renewal actions on the expiration date. To respond to these issues, the inconveniences, these needs, we would like to present a DocLogix contracts management solution. It's ready for use and a solution dedicated for exactly this area. It's workflow driven, so this means that it includes a flexible workflow engine, which will enable to adjust and mirror real-life organizational flow of the preparation for approval of the contract from a real-life organization. Also, of course, as the root functionality, it converts all document management and informational functionality inside. So from a business perspective, it covers the preparation, negotiation, approval, signing, storage, and further management. So it means the management of all the information and actions related with the contract. What are the benefits to end users by using the DocLogix contract management tool. Firstly, the efficient search can get you the information you need in seconds. This includes search conditions, metadata of contract documents, as well as the text type content. Of course, a logged-in user in a search result will get access to only those documents they've been given privilege to. You can have full control over who has access to certain documents by managing individually each person's privileges. You can control access to each part of the document, exposing only some necessary overview information that you only want some groups of people to see. Also providing access to sensitive information. On the other levels of access, you can also control the ability to view and/or edit documents. The unified approach makes it easy to extract all the contracts with a certain criteria of metadata description related to a customer, or which expiration date will end in a defined period. We can arrange remote access to the contracts from both a desktop PC as well as a mobile device. Powerful reports and extracts in Excel, but also in a business dashboard overview with graphs. The alerts and notifications will inform the end users about the key dates, such as expiration dates, actions which are scheduled with a contract, for example, and audit actions. When it comes to sharing, you can collaborate and work together by sharing information in an efficient way. Clear and quick electronic confirmation. So when the process led by the workflow functionality, it's efficient because all the frozen periods are skipped over. It's also traceable, so it means that we can see how it's going instead of a traditional approach. The system will notify you about the urgency of tasks that are overdue. And of course, it's a powerful Hive space instead of a traditional one. Here you can see all the effective milestones in the contract management lifecycle. First, we start from internal employees and their request for a contract or a request for approving the contract from a vendor or a customer. Then there's the negotiation phases, where we're exchanging some draft versions with the customer. When we agree on a final version with the customer, it goes to an internal approval phase that leads to signing. Then the contract is transferred into execution. Next is to manage our obligations, then perform some audits and reporting, and then of course at the end of the trip, we should take care of the renewal and also our hiving process. So in DocLogix, we can mirror a tight connection with a physical storage of the documents, which is placing room, shelf, and segregators where the physical documents is placed. Here I'm presenting in two parts. The top part stands for creating and approving the contract. So I'm splitting it into typical stages, which later will be presented by me step by step. So first is the contract request and preparation, then sending the contract proposal to the customers. After we have negotiations and finally approve of the final version and signing. Once the contract is signed, we can move to this process at the bottom here, which is for managing signed contracts. So transferring into execution, execution itself, managing audits and other obligations, performing different types of analysis, and finally taking care of the renewal process. Let's start from the top part, managing contract preparation and approval. Here once again is listed the process. So let's go to the first part, contract initiation/preparation. First thing is that when creating a contract, the user can choose a physical document from my library, which is stored inside the system. So this means that the user can choose a physical file from a dedicated library for storing such templates. As an example, I will open an already existing contract and I'll add an additional attachment. I'll create a new version, and in here I can add an attachment from a template. So it means that I will have listed all these templates which can be used. In this particular case, let's say this one, it's added as an extra attachment. I can save, and then I can centralize the content of this particular document with the metadata description of the contract itself. So I'll open this document in a new tab. And just show you how to centralize. I'm selecting all the content, and some of the sections on update are centralized like here. The title of the contract and the valid from date. It can be any sections, so we can just adjust the automation for the creation of the contract. Filling out the templates, contract description card adapts to the company needs. This means that we can fully adapt the scope of the information that will be stored describing the contract. Of course, we've got some typical counterparties, the value, the period of validity, but also we can show some overview information, some tasks-based information, relate other documents and any people related to this particular contract. Here are the review frequency and so on. Context management, as I've mentioned, and also workflow tasks. So let's assume that we're creating a new contract request. So I'm an employee inside of your organization. So let's write purchase contract request. So here I can point to some counterparties, some expected figures, the value, okay, add a physical attachment, which would start working on this particular document. And here, after saving such a request, the system will start the workflow automatically. This means that it leads step by step with the process, what actions should be performed on a request. So in here we've got an example diagram. So first, the head of the law department should appoint a responsible lawyer who will be responsible for creating a contract or approving it. Then it will go into a phase with this appointed lawyer in the responsible lawyer dynamic group. So the appointed lawyer on this step will be preparing the contract and approving it. So when it's approved by him, it goes for the CFO for the final phase. If it's not approved, it's rejected and returns back to the employee. This is just an example process anyway. I'll just show you how it's performed. So in fact, I'm now the head of the law department. I have to appoint the responsible lawyer. This action is performed in here. Completing this task will lead the process further, step by step. So it's also dedicated to me because I've appointed myself. So here we're on this particular stage of flow. When I push it forward, it will finally, with an approved action, go to the final stage of the flow, sending to the customer. As you can see here, all the details are traceable, who and where performed which actions. Also, I have to add in here that the system sends the emails with assignments of a new task after the completion of the previous tasks. So in this way, the system, in fact, during its deployment is mirroring the internal procedures in the organization and deploying the automated flow of events. Another step is sending the contract proposals to the customer. So this contract version we achieved on this stage can be sent automatically with the use of the system inside our organization and by email. Here we can appoint someone from outside whom we'll be sending this example contract to. So it's an integrated email sending inside of the system. Contract negotiation. Here we can register all the protocols with negotiations as a related action with a particular contract. In here you've got a dedicated tab which is called Reviews and Actions. So if we treat a negotiation as a related action, like in this example, we can in fact relate any of the actions with the contracts. So from the perspective of a contract document, all the events, all the actions related with it, let's open it in here. There's an initial audit action. This protocol was prepared on that occasion, but it's reachable from this particular perspective of asserting a contract. Okay, contract version control. Another issue when we are negotiating many versions of the contract that are created in DocLogix. We can trace all the life cycle of the documents, so when we've got feedback from the customer, start with a new version. We can apply upload new version or just delete this existing one to add a new one. So maybe I'll just do it this simple way. I'll delete the existing one, so it means that only deleting the current version in a previous version. Let's just upload a new version and perform a check-in action. And in here have a version log. I'll have available these two documents as expected, so I can in fact monitor the life cycle of any of the contract documents. Of course, when it goes to some approval stage, it's frozen in addition. Okay, let's continue. So finally, we are reaching a kind of agreed by both parties version, which stands for a final version. And it goes to internal approval process that leads to the signing of the contract. I'd like to emphasize that this approval cycle is mirrored by the individual flow of events in a single organization. So what are the benefits? After deploying workflows, the process is continuous, so it means that completing previous tasks stands for sending the email notifications for assigning a new task. So we're just skipping the frozen periods between completing the previous tasks and assigning, appointing, and forming a new task. Also, the system automatically appoints who should be a performer. It has interactive functionality, which means that it will notify a responsible user for every step when the task is close to being overdue and when it's already overdue. And this is all traceable. Now I will start in a very simple manner with this approval process. So I'll finish this workflow we already started. I'm just configuring the settings to send to the customer action and just assign a new extended contract approved action. So it means that it'll be sent in some tasks that won't be used until the signing. So endorse, approve, and sign. So I will just very quickly go through the process. So please remember that all the responsible performers will get the email notifications. Now in this demo, all the tasks are arranged for me as Anthony Smith, so I'm getting the email. Just execute the URL provided in the email, and here in the contract management, I see I've got an active task related to this contract. So another person from, let's say, some purchase department just asked to endorse this particular contract. So confirm it, and then it goes to the final stage to approve and sign. Some of the directors from the organization, so it's finally performed. From that moment on, that version is frozen for sure. And the document is now archived. Okay, so this is how it goes for the workflow. We've got a drag and drop design for people who are not IT specialists. And also this design for the monitoring of the flow. In here you see the email notifications that are provided by the URL that directly opens certain contract documents with which the task is related to, or it shows the document content itself inside of the emails. So all the user has to do is be balanced with his obligation within the workflow processes is to check his email client, get familiar with the document, and perform the appropriate action with this complete or reject task. Now we're going into the stage that the contract is signed, and now it's transferred into execution. One of the DocLogix benefits is the ability to automatically notify some groups of managers about the contract on certain perimeters. So when the contract is entered, all the defined group of managers is notified about such an event. So what could be the user scenario? It could be a notification for contracts of a high value that are already entered in. So in here I'm defining the list of subscriptions, and the subscription is called Remind on High Value Contract. So I create a check-in action, but also applying some filter conditions which only extracts those contracts with a high value. So the benefit is that the system will notify on certain occasions. So for example, achieving some value and automatically notifying a specific selection of managers. Continuing on, we have the execution itself. The typical issues are lost contract documents and inefficient searching. So the benefits are access to electronic copies at any time and controlled access. So what I'm trying to say here is we can apply, of course, some default security settings for all the contracts from the lists, but we can also individually adjust the security settings for each contract. Also, it can be performed from the user interface. So in here we've got some tricky functionalities when you fill out the group of additional privileged users, but this shows the strength of the security settings. It's also worth mentioning in here we can adjust what portion of the information would be available for each user. So whether he or she should get full access to all the details or only for the overview which has certain sections extracted. We can apply security settings for all the informational tabs on the contract document form. Other benefits include an efficient search system and the ability for remote access. We're able to provide access from mobile devices, and we also have a dedicated app on both the Android and Apple iOS. So with these you can work on the go. For the search we're using a Google type of search. So let's say the user is writing a phrase and the system will search all the metadata descriptions as well as the text content in the actual files. Also in here I want to show you the preview functionality, which enables a very quick view of the documents. Also, we can search for any of the criteria. So let's say all the contracts are valid till the end of the current year. It can be extracted here as a filter is applied. Also, as an alternative view, let's select the contracts to be renewed. We can also arrange a group box functionality that gives a handle view on the different workflow stages or just on the status of the contract in terms of its expiration dates. The next phase is management obligations and audit. So here we can manage all the actions related to a particular contract and also deployed on this occasion on the due date subscription functionality. So for all these actions related with the contract, we can apply email reminders. So let's open one of the contracts that I know has a related action. Our related actions here. And on each action, I have also defined some of the subscriptions. Sorry, I've made a mistake. It's not actions, it's contracts. Let me switch over. So actions remind me of upcoming actions, so I'll be reminded in advance so I know before that date of the action. It's also a kind of interactive functionality. Next is analysis, dashboards and reports. So in the system I can very easily transfer into Excel any of the filtered lists using also the templates, but also the system is enriched with a graphical dashboard functionality. Like in here we've got the contracts quantity split by department displayed in a bar graph. Also we've got individual reports. So here the contracts accumulated is displayed by type. If I change this parameter, the data from another scope will be displayed. So in here is data visualization and extracting the key information. And also renewed and prolonging. So in here the system serves time-based notifications, which means that a timer is triggering the notification for the responsible performer when the time is near to the expiration dates for their contracts. So with this you'll be sure you'll be on time before the expiration date expires. So here's a demonstration. So for the contracts list, I've got a dedicated subscription for notifications to remind me of upcoming deadlines. I would like to be notified 14 days in advance on a valid 2 contract. To sum up all the functionality, DocLogix covers the full contract lifecycle coverage, including the processing, the preparation, approval process, as well as managing the already signed contracts. In this area, preparation and approval process, we are using the workflow functionalities and managing already signed contracts. We're also providing the benefits for end users through interactive alerts, or for expiration dates for the contract or schedule actions related with the contract, or just informing you on contracts created with certain parameters. So, DocLogix is suitable for small, medium, and large companies as a fully adjustable and customizable solution. Please remember that the flow of events in the workflow will be always mirrored in real time with the organization. DocLogix can be hosted locally on a server or in the cloud. Thank you for watching.